So now, good morning, everyone.
Good
Good,
morning, ma'am.
good morning. Now, today we are going to start with history lesson number 8, Women, Caste and Reform. Now, as the name indicates of the lesson, as the name only from the name only you can make out that what you are going to read in this lesson, what you are going to understand in this lesson. So, in this lesson, you are going to understand about the condition of women. What was the condition of women in the early stages, early years, and what all changes, reform means what all changes have been made in the condition of the woman afterwards, and what all things the woman had to suffer according to the caste taboos and traditions. So all this we are going to, who are the reformers? Reformers means who brought the changes in the life of the women, condition of the woman. So all about those reformers also we are going to, social reformers we are going to read about in this lesson. Now, have you ever uh, thought of how children lived about 200 years ago? Now, these are the few questions uh, that you might have arose in your mind, that what type of life was there in the early years, about how children used to live, how women, how men used to uh, cope up with the situations which were present in the early years. Nowadays, most girls from middle class families go to school. Now, previously, if we know that we have understood in the previous classes that the condition of women was very worse in the early years. Plus, especially the girl child was not treated equally as compared to the boy child. And the same way as nowadays you see that the girls are more free to go to have the education in school. They are more free to go here and there, roam about, uh, enjoy, entertain themselves outside. They can go freely in the market to purchase. And they, for study wise also, if we see that they are uh, most girls are joining the schools also nowadays. No ban is there for, or no restriction is there for the girls. And even they are joining the higher studies also, going out of their state, out of that particular area where they are living, for achieving the higher education, and they are joining the universities and all also. So nowadays, most girls from the middle class families go to school and often study with the boys also. On growing up, many of them go to college and universities and take up jobs after that. Nowadays, this is the condition, that nowadays girls are also uh, are in means involved in some of the other work or job or services, but previously it was not so. They have to be adults before they are legally married. Before they are legally means before the marriage of the girl uh, is given freedom to be educated, to get education, and to have the job, to have the services and all. And according to law, they can marry anyone they like. Now, this is also the freedom of to the girls given, that they can marry anyone they can, from any caste or community, and widows can also remarry. So, widows means the uh, female whose uh, husband is no more, whose husband has died. She is a widow. Now she is also now asked to remarry. She can also marry another man. But previously this was not so. All women, like all men, can vote and stand for election also. Now freedom to women to cast the vote also is there. Of course, the right are not actually enjoyed by all. Poor people have little or no access to education, and in many families, women cannot choose their husband. But we can see that now all this uh, freedom is given to the woman, but still we see somewhere that in the poor families, especially, the girl child is uh, prohibited, or we can say they are stopped for getting the higher education in the family. In especially it happens in the poor family where uh, enough of money is not there for both boy to send both boys and girls to school, a boy child and a girl child to school. So people usually send, in that case, people usually, parents usually send their boy child to have the education. Even women cannot choose their husband. It is the parents to decide for the girl to whom to be married. Now, 200 years ago, things were very different. Almost children were married off at an early age. So this was the condition 200 years ago, where the children were married at very early age. Both Hindu and Muslim men could marry more than one wife. Even Hindu and Muslim, in both the cases, men could marry more wives. In some part of the country, widows were praised if they choose death by burning themselves on the funeral pyre of their husband. So, widows were also asked to burn themselves on the funeral pyre of the husband, and that was the system called as sati system, in which the when the husband died, the girl was asked, the wife was asked to burn herself on the funeral pyre of the husband. You can see this figure one, figure one in this, the death body of the husband is burned, and on that case the woman is also asked to uh, burn himself on the funeral pyre. Funeral pyre means ये अ, जिसे आग जो जलाते हैं, जिसे वो जलाते हैं, वहां पर उसके साथ ही, हस्बैंड के साथ ही अपने आप को जलाने के लिए बोलते थे. And the woman who used to do this thing was praised a lot in the community, in the society. Then women who died in this manner, whether willingly or otherwise, were called sati, meaning viscous woman, virtuous woman. That means women died in this manner. In this manner means through this burning herself on the funeral pyre of the husband. Those type of women were called as sati, meaning virtuous woman. And sati means virtuous woman. You can underline this. What does the word sati means? It means virtuous woman. So a very great deed according to the society was there when the widow used to burn herself on the funeral pyre of the husband. Now women's right to property were also restricted. Means women were also not given the right to property uh, in the early years. Besides, most women had virtually no access to education. In many parts, no access to education means they were not given education at all. In most cases, the women were not given education. They were not asked to go to school to have the education. In many parts of the country, people believed that if a woman was educated, she would become a widow. And it was a belief, it was a thinking of the old early years people, in the early years, that if a woman will be educated, then definitely she would become a widow, means her husband would die if the woman will be educated. And in this you can see this was the one of the many pictures of sati painted by European artists who come to India. Now this is the picture of sati painted by uh, we can say Balthazar Solvin in 1813, and the practice of sati is seen over in this picture. Differences between man and woman were not the only one in the society. Differences between man and woman were not the only ones in the society. Means in the society, man and woman both were treated unequally. In most regions, people were divided along lines of caste, and not only men and women were the differentiation was done between men and women, but in many regions, many part of the country, people were also divided according to the basis of the caste. Means division was there on the basis of the caste also. Now Brahmins and Kshatriyas considered themselves as upper caste. So who were considered as upper caste? Brahmins and Kshatriyas. They were considered as the higher category people, higher standard people in the society. Others, such as traders and moneylenders, often referred to as Vaishyas, were placed after them. In the second category, traders and moneylenders were there, and they were often called as Vaishyas. So, first category of people in the society was of Brahmins and Kshatriyas. Second category was of Vaishyas, and then came peasants and artisans, the skilled people. The peasants means the farmers, and artisans means the skilled people who were skilled in one or the particular art and craft activity. So the peasants and artisans such as weavers, potters, referred as shudras, and they were referred as shudras. So first category, the highest category of the society was Brahmins, second is Vaishyas, and third is Shudras. So they were divided, the society was divided on the basis, the people were divided on the basis of these caste division in the society. At the lowest rung were those who labored to keep cities and village clean, or worked at job at that upper caste considered polluting, that is it could lead to the loss of caste status. And in the lowest category of the society were those people who labored the city means who work for the city and villages to keep the city and villages clean, and they also worked for the upper caste people, means for Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, they used to work. Even they used to keep the city and the villages clean, and that is why they were considered as the very lowest. They were kept at the very lowest strata of the caste system. The upper caste also treated many of these groups at bottom as untouchables, and these upper caste people, that is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, they consider these people who used to make the city and villages clean, who used to work for the upper caste people, they were considered as untouchables in the early years. They were not allowed to enter temples, and these people, these untouchables, were also not allowed to enter temples. They even can't draw water from the wells, means uh, एक गांव में जो कुआं होता था उस कुएं से भी वो लोग कॉमन कुएं से भी पानी नहीं निकाल सकते थे, विच वाज यूज्ड बाय द अपर कास्ट, मींस जो अपर कास्ट लोग जिस वेल को यूज करते थे वो वेल वो अनटचेबल्स नहीं यूज कर सकते थे, पानी नहीं ले सकते थे वहां से। और bathe in the ponds where upper caste bathed, neither they could bathe themselves uh, in those ponds where the upper caste people used to go for bathing, and they were seen as inferior human beings, और उनको एक अ, नीचे जाति का लोग समझा जाता था। Over the 19th and 20th century, many of these norms and perceptions slowly changed. Now, many of these norms and perception means many of these thinking, many of these viewpoint views of this of the people for this lower category people had changed. Means let us see how this happened now, how this change appeared in the society. We will read now. Working towards change. Now what all steps were taken for the change and all. From the early 19th century, we find debates and discussions about social customs and practices taking on a new character. Means from the early 19th century, the talks about to bring the change in the society, in the customs, in the traditions of the people was there. The debates, the discussions was there in early 19th century. One important reason for this was the development of new forms of communication. Now, the important reason to bring the changes in the society, prevailing society, was through the communication system. From a first time, books, newspaper, magazine, leaflets, and pamphlets were printed. Now, for the first time, the difference was there from the early to the uh, to bring the change is through the communication process, because now books were there, newspaper, that means the uh, printed material was there to uh, means change the viewpoint, to change the mind, so that people can read, go through those books, newspaper, and then can change their mind for the these caste taboos and all. These were far cheaper and more accessible than the manuscripts that you have read about in class 7th. So in class 7th you have read about manuscripts and all, but these books, newspaper, were very cheap, less in money. Therefore, ordinary people could read this, and many of them could also write and express their ideas in their own language. So this printed material was very cheap, in less money they can, the ordinary person can also uh, purchase these newspaper, books, and magazine. Even they can read those whatever printed in the books, newspaper, whatever message was there. And even if anybody wants to express their views, they can also write and express their ideas in their own languages. So this was the great change which came from early year, means in the uh, to bring about the change in the society. All kinds of issues, social, political, economic, and religious, could now be debated and discussed by men and sometimes by women also. In new cities, the discussion could reach out to the wider public and could become linked to the movements for the social change. So the discussions could reach out to the wider public, whatever discussions were there for the change, to bring the change in the society, that was circulated, the ideas were circulated to the printed books, printed material, and the discussion could reach to the wider public, means more and more public could be made aware about the changes to be brought in the society, and linked movement for the social change. And linked this could become linked to movement for the social change. That means the movement was started to bring the social changes through the printed material. Now, these debates were often initiated by Indian reformers and reform groups. Now these debates, whatever debates means uh, views were there, which were the views which were exchanged in the society, they were often initiated, they were often given importance by the Indian reformers and reform group. One such reformer was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So the debates were often initiated by the Indian reformers, means the people, the Indian people who want to bring change in the society. And one of the famous reformer was Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and uh, he was there from 1772 to 1833. He founded a reform association known as Brahmo Sabha. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy is associated with Brahmo Sabha, and this Brahmo Sabha was later known as Brahmo Samaj, and in Calcutta, and this was in Calcutta. So he, uh, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, was the founder of Reform Association. Means it was an association. Samaj was an association to bring change in the society, and this change in the society was to be brought through this association in Calcutta. People such as Ram Mohan Roy are described as reformers because they felt that changes are necessary in the society. So, why these people are called as reformers? These people are called as reformers because they thought that the changes were necessary in the society and unjust practices needed to be done away with. That means to stop those practices which would hamper, which would harm the Indian society. They thought that the best way to ensure such changes was by persuading people to give up old practices and adopt the new ways of life. Now, according to these reformers, they thought that the best way to bring the change in the society was to adopt the new ways of new ways of the life and to discard the old tradition, old practices, which used to means which used to clearly difference make differences between the people, between the uh, male and female. Ram Mohan Roy was keen to spread the knowledge of Western education in the country and bring about greater freedom and equality for women. He wrote about the way women were forced to bear the burden of domestic work. That means he also has written about the life of the woman, that she was indulged in only the domestic work, household work, confined to home and the kitchen. That means he was confined. She was the woman was limited to the kitchen and home only and was not allowed to move out and become educated. This was the condition of the woman, and for which Ram Mohan Roy has written a lot to bring the change in the life of the woman. So till here only today. I end up here only. In our next class, whenever there is video uploading or live class, we'll continue from this changing the lives of widows. I hope it is clear. Go through the lesson, and if any doubt, you can ask.